Hi, my name is Valter Nóbrega. I am a PhD student here at Nova SPE and I was the winner of the Consultaccount Prize for the best PhD presentation in the Portuguese Economic Journal last July. The paper that I presented was called Asset Liquidity and the Welfare Cost of Business Cycle. This is more or less the type of research that I'm currently doing, so trying to evaluate welfare impacts and try to analyze what is the final impact of different kinds of assets with respect to liquidity. So today, we have this paper about the welfare cost of business cycle, but I'm currently also working in another paper which is about fiscal consolidation programs and the impacts of different liquid assets, also now in this case with respect to those fiscal consolidation programs. About the paper of asset liquidity and the welfare cost of business cycle, the idea is not new. So this is something that started with Lucas in the late 80s, where he tried to see what were the welfare costs of business cycle, so how much people get hurt by the variation of the business cycle. Then we have also a very important paper from Krusell and Smith, which tries to incorporate heterogeneity, household heterogeneity in this model and try again to calculate those welfare costs. Well, for those two papers, the values were really low, especially for the paper of Krusell and Smith. They calculated a 2% cost of welfare in terms of consumption equivalents. So the idea was that, well, the business cycle are not that hurtful for the households. However, those models were using only one type of assets. And we tried to see what about if we have two types of assets. In that case, we have two different types of constraint agents. So in the paper of Krusell and Smith, they only have one constraint agent, which is the hand-to-mouth agent. And actually they have a result that for those agents, the welfare costs are almost 40%. But in that type of model, the percentage of those type of agents are very low in all the distribution. So if the idea of this, now the idea of our paper is, what if we introduce a different type of assets, and those two different assets will differ with respect to liquidity. So we are going to have one liquid asset and another illiquid asset. This literature comes from the paper of Kaplan and Violante, and with this framework we can create another type of constraint agent which is called wealthy hand-to-mouth. And the wealthy hand-to-mouth is an agent, an household that has very low liquid assets, nearly zero, but he actually has illiquid assets. But he cannot. But if he wants to change the amount of illiquid assets, he has to pay a price. And maybe because he doesn't have the money, he doesn't have the liquid assets to pay that price, he'll be constrained. And actually, what Kaplan and Violante found out was that those type of agents account for nearly 20% of the distribution of all agents. So, if we sum up the 20% of wealthy hand-to-mouth agents with the 10% of poor hand-to-mouth agents, we end up with almost 30% of constraint agents in this type of economy with two assets. Moreover, Kaplan and Violante found out that in this framework, they can replicate in a better way the distribution of MPCs according to the data. So adding these liquidity parts for the assets in the model will gain us some aspects that will clearly be more related to what happens in the economy. So the idea is to compare again the results of our paper with the results from the paper of Cruzel and Smith, and actually we have found that the welfare costs of business cycles are not only 2%, but they are higher as we expected, and we found some, right now we have a number of almost 6% of costs for the variation of the business cycles. For the next year, I will be visiting the University of Delaware for 1 year, and then I believe my research will be focused on this type of questions about welfare, about asset liquidity, about fiscal multipliers, fiscal consolidation programs, and also to incorporate ENC models in these questions. So try to see how much the nominal rigidities influence those results, and try to also make different questions regarding these models that were not done yet, and maybe this can open some future perspectives for me. I would like also to thank the Portuguese Economic Journal and the juries for recognizing our work, and also to thank Consultaccount for this award, because at the end this is a job that sometimes we do not find much of recognition, and these kind of awards are really, they give hope to young students to continue their research.